Welcome, everybody. Night one of the Democratic National Convention of 2024. Unconventional in many ways. Normally, a first-term president speaks on Thursday at the convention. Why? Because normally they are running for re-election and they are accepting their renomination on the final day of the convention. Not so this time. So sitting President Joe Biden, having stepped aside in lieu of Kamala Harris, spoke on the first night. It was fascinating to see the dynamic between President Biden and Kamala Harris, which we will get to. Truly a raucous crowd that you would typically not expect to see until nights 3 or 4, but it was only day one. Couldn't possibly show you every speech, but we will start with some of the primetime highlights and build up through to and including President Biden's speech. If I had to say what was the biggest problem last night, it would be that they fell dramatically behind in the scheduling. The whole point of scheduling these things is to wrap up sort of right before the 11 p.m. news on the East Coast so you can get clips of the big speeches onto the local news. President Biden didn't come out until close to 11:30 p.m. Eastern time, spoke about 50 minutes. It was well after midnight when Biden wrapped up. Other than that, and the fact that it dragged and dragged due to a number of different delays, it was very good in a lot of different ways. One of the interesting speakers, Steve Kerr, former Chicago Bulls basketball player, Golden State Warriors head coach, recent coach of the U.S. Olympic basketball team, which won gold. He said, basically, we need to replicate what the U.S. Olympic team did in the final, which is night-night for the opposition when it comes to Donald Trump.
And after the results are tallied that night, we can, in the words of the great Steph Curry, we can tell Donald Trump, night-night. Thank you.
A very good speech from just an all-around good guy, Steve Kerr. Then we got into the sort of heavy hitters of the evening, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, really going after Trump with his anti-union stances. The crowd was very engaged for AOC, and notable, of course, that at one point AOC was considered a party outsider, an upstart, an insurrectionist, colloquially, of course, not in a literal sense within the Democratic Party. And now her views have changed to some degree, but also very much welcomed as part of the mainstream of the Democratic Party.
Because we know that Donald Trump would sell this country for $1 if it meant lining his own pockets and greasing the palms of his Wall Street friends. And I, for one, am tired of hearing about how a two-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day to lift working people out from under the boots of greed, trampling on our way of life. The truth is, Don, you cannot love this country if you only fight for the wealthy and big business. To love this country is to fight for its people, all people, working people, everyday Americans like bartenders and factory workers and fast food cashiers who punch a clock and are on their feet all day in some of the toughest jobs out there.
One of the big themes of the night was support for workers, support for labor, support for unions, and AOC even turning around the often used attack against her about being a bartender, turning it right around on those who have never had to actually work.
Ever since I got elected, Republicans have attacked me by saying that I should go back to bartending. But let me tell you, I'm happy to any day of the week because there is nothing wrong with working for a living.
So a very good speech, very well received by AOC. She was followed by Hillary Clinton. Now, let me mention something about Hillary Clinton's speech. The speech was excellent, and Hillary Clinton is a very solid public speaker. There were some people on my live stream, and I hope you'll join me tonight for night 2, by the way. There were people watching my live stream who reacted by saying, oh, Hillary I'm shocked she can even show her face again. Listen, Hillary was not my favorite candidate. Hillary was not even my preference in 2016 from all of the options that existed with regard to people who wanted to be the nominee, including Bernie Sanders and others. But a lot of this reflexive Hillary sucks stuff is what got us Trump in the first place, and it's why we don't currently have Roe v. Wade. So let's just consider the impact of what we say and do. But Hillary Clinton, ironically, she talked about people being criminals and the DNC crowd chanting "lock him up" about Donald Trump, which, as all of you know, I'm for law and order. So we don't lock up Trump because we want to. We lock up Trump if a judge sentences him to that. But here there is, of course, the irony of Trump having said if it were up to him, Hillary would be in prison.
As a prosecutor, Kamala locked up murderers and drug traffickers. She will never rest in defense of our freedom and safety. Donald Trump fell asleep at his own trial, and when he woke up, he made his own kind of history, the first person to run for president with 34 felony convictions. As Vice President, Kamala sat in the Situation Room.
The irony and the knowing smile of Hillary Clinton, given how recently Trump was saying it is she who should be locked up. And Hillary Clinton wrapped up what was a very good speech by pointing out that there is a glass ceiling here, a woman as president of the United States, that in 2016, Hillary herself was not able to break. But there's a real shot here for Kamala Harris to be the one who breaks it.
I see the freedom to look our children in the eye and say, in America, you can go as far as your hard work and talent will take you, and mean it. And you know what? On the other side of that glass ceiling is Kamala Harris raising her hand and taking the oath of office as our 47th President of the United States. Because, my friends, when a barrier falls for one of us, it falls. It falls and clears the way for all of us. So for the next 78 days, we need to work harder than we ever have. We need to beat back the dangers that Trump and his allies pose to the rule of law and our way of life. Don't get distracted or complacent. Talk to your friends and neighbors. Volunteer. Be proud champions for the truth and for the country that we all love. I want my grandchildren and their grandchildren to know I was here at this moment, that we were here, and that we were with Kamala Harris every step of the way. This is our time, America. This is when we stand up. This is when we break through. The future is here. It's in our grasp. Let's go win it.
All right, so a really arousing speech by Hillary Clinton showing seemingly no bitterness whatsoever that it will not be she who breaks that glass ceiling, but it very well may be Kamala Harris. And then we continued building towards Joe Biden. Friend of the show, Jamie Raskin, spoke, and he said a lot of interesting things, including sort of comically, a reminder to J.D. Vance of why the running mate to Trump was an open position to begin with.
Hey, J.D. Vance, do you understand why there was a sudden job opening for running mate on the GOP ticket? They tried to kill your predecessor.
Jamie Raskin, very good at this, also followed up by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who did a really good job of drawing a palpable distinction between Trump and Harris.
America, looking at the two choices before you, who would you hire? Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris has a resume. Donald Trump has a rap sheet.
And of course, those are only some of the differences between the two of them. And then we got into President Biden's speech. Biden was introduced by his daughter, Ashley Biden, to a 4-minute standing ovation.
And now, I would like to introduce my father, your 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
All right. And by the way, a father relating normally to his daughter, very much unlike any imagery we would see at the Republican National Convention. I won't play the full 4-minute standing ovation. It's people cheering for 4 minutes. And then Joe Biden spoke, and Joe Biden addressed his age. Joe Biden made it clear that he made the decision he made because what's most important to him is what happens in this country. And it's not about him. It's an incredible concept that is not present on the other side of the aisle at this stage of the game. And Biden's speech was quite good. I would argue one of the best speeches of his presidency. And it felt like a farewell speech in many senses.
Brought us to this day. What shall our legacy be? What will our children say? Let me know in my heart, when my days are through, America, America, I gave my best to you. I made a lot of mistakes in my career, but I gave my best to you. For 50 years, like many of you, I've given my heart and soul to our nation. And I've been blessed a million times in return with the support of the American people. I've either been too young to be in the Senate because I wasn't 30 yet, and too old to stay as president. But I hope you know how grateful I am to all of you. I can honestly say, and I mean this from the bottom, give you my word as a Biden, I can honestly say I'm more optimistic about the future than I was when I was elected as a 29-year-old United States Senator. I mean it.
The speech was criticized by some for being too much about Joe Biden and not enough about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I think it's a fair criticism, although it is only night one. The case for Harris and Walz is sort of being built night after night. But Joe Biden did a very good job of explaining his motivations for what he did as president and his motivations now for stepping aside.
And all this talk about how I'm angry at all those people who said I should step down, that's not true. I love my country more, and we need to preserve our democracy. In 2024, we need you to vote. We need you to keep the Senate. We need you to win back the House of Representatives. And above all, we need you to beat Donald Trump. And elect Kamala and Tim.
Making a very good case for Harris and Walz. Biden also alluding to his age a number of times in ways that were really pretty appropriate given the totality of the situation.
Donald Trump calls America a failing nation. No, I'm serious. But think about this. Think about this. He publicly says to the whole world, I'm going to say something outrageous. I know more foreign leaders by their first names and know them well than anybody alive. Just because I'm so damn old. But I'm not.
And then continuing as the speech went to talk about how the best decision he made as far as his presidency was selecting Kamala Harris as VP, and that the country would do well to select her now as president.
Selecting Kamala was the very first decision I made when I became our nominee. And it was the best decision I made my whole career. We've not only gotten to know each other, we've become close friends. She's tough, she's experienced, and she has enormous integrity, enormous integrity. Her story represents the best American story. And like many of our best presidents, she was also vice president. That's a joke.
And then, of course, also alluding to the very, very real threat of electing someone like Trump who will play coy and be pen pals with dictators and authoritarians, and drawing a contrast there to Kamala Harris as well.
But guess who doesn't get it and doesn't respect our veterans? We know from his own chief of staff, the four-star General John Kelly, that Trump, when in Europe, would not go to the grave sites in France. The brave service members who gave their lives to this country, he called them suckers and losers. Who in the hell does he think he is? Who does he think he is? There's no words for a person. They are not the words of a person not worthy of being commander-in-chief. Period. Not then, not now, and not ever. I mean that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Just as no commander-in-chief should ever bow down to a dictator, the way Trump bows down to Putin. I never have, and I promise you, Kamala Harris will never do it. Will never bow.
And then finally, a very, very different end to Joe Biden's speech than what we saw at every recent Trump event. Not a dystopian, apocalyptic vision.
Than I was when I was elected as a 29-year-old United States Senator. I mean it. Folks, we just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America. And there's nothing we cannot do when we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
All right, and a very interesting moment. On the one hand, Donald Trump and his supporters tried to have Trump's VP killed. Here is Kamala Harris embracing Joe Biden, and some very amateur lip reading suggests that she says, "I love you so much." A very, very different situation than what we see over on that depraved other side. So one of the most interesting and probably impactful day ones of any convention, that's what happened at the DNC in Chicago. Meanwhile, as a story of contrasts, Trump's reaction was to go to Truth Social and post the following as Biden was speaking, quote, "Comrade Kamala Harris has just informed us that she will not do the Fox News debate on September 4. I am not surprised by this development because I feel that she knows it is very difficult at best for her to defend her record-setting flip-flopping on absolutely everything she once believed in, including her statements that there will be no fracking in Pennsylvania and her horrible performance on the border, our border czar, where millions of criminals and people from mental institutions and terrorists have been allowed to pour into our country totally unchecked and unvetted. It's called, and she loves it, an open border. Rather than the debate on September 4, I have agreed to do a teletown hall anchored by Sean Hannity for Fox in Pennsylvania." What a contrast. And then finally, the Democrats accidentally put forward the Biden platform. His name is mentioned 21 times, and yet they threw him out of office. It was a vicious coup, such a foolish thing to miss, but the fake news media refuses to cover it. If I had made such a mistake, it would be the biggest story in America. Screaming into the void is Trump as the country moves beyond him and sees the alternative vision presented on day one at the DNC. Tonight, Michelle Obama, J.B. Pritzker, Doug Emhoff, and others. I hope you'll join me live at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter. And make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/The David Pakman Show. Quick break and more after this. If you've been thinking about getting a new mattress, Helix Sleep is where I would start. I've been sleeping on Helix mattresses for years now. I recommend Helix to everyone, which is why I wanted them as a sponsor. If you don't want to take my word for it, Helix has been awarded #1 mattress by both GQ and Wired magazine. And one of the things that makes Helix unique is their sleep quiz. I didn't really know what kind of mattress would be best for me, but you do this short sleep quiz. You answer questions about your body type and your preferences, what position you like to sleep in, and Helix will match you with the perfect mattress for you, so you know you're actually getting something tailored to your needs instead of going in blind like most people do. I got my Helix mattress designed to stay cool at night since I hate getting hot while I sleep. Shipping is always free. You get 100 nights to decide whether you like it. My audience gets a huge 20% discount off of all orders, plus 2 free pillows. Go to helixsleep.com/Pakman and enter code HelixPartner20 at checkout. The link is down below.